Welcome back, golf fans. I'm Chris Terrell. I'm here for dailyfantasysportsrankings.com. That's DFSR.com for short. I'm going to bring you my picks and a little bit of analysis going into the Sony Open this week, the first full field event of the season. So if you look back at last week's video here on YouTube, you will find I went through my cheat, how to open it, how to create your own models, some of the other options and the other tabs that I have on the cheat sheet. Not going to get too much into that here this week. I am going to show you quickly how to open that cheat sheet, but then I'm going to get into a little bit of how I go about choosing my custom stats for the week, course history, that kind of stuff. So some of the outside resources that I use, very good links that you can bookmark or sign up to. So let's get started. So to start out, DFSR.com, you're going to find my article on the home page as well as under the Other tab. If you scroll down here just below the opening intro, you're going to see DFS PGA Weekly Cheat Sheet. You can click on that one there, or you can scroll down through the article to the bottom in the comments section. You'll also find a link to the Google document there as well. So when you click on that, it's going to open a view-only sheet. So like I said last week, the first thing you're going to want to do is go to File, make a copy, name it whatever you'd like, and then click OK. It's going to open another copy of that, one that you're going to be able, like I said, you're going to be able to sort any of these columns, as well as over in the orange section where all the stat rankings are, you're going to be able to customize your model as you see fit. And then a little bit farther to the right in the overall rankings, you're going to be able to decide what's more important this week, whether it be stats, history, form, DraftKings points, etc. So before I get into my picks, I'm going to kind of go over some of the, like I said, some of the resources that I look at for current form, course history, how I come up with my stats. So let's take a look at that. First one is PGAtour.com. I go to the specific tournament, tournament info, course. I just kind of read through the description, PGA Tour's description, as well as look at some of the pictures here. Sometimes on YouTube you'll see some flyover videos, hole-by-hole flyover videos of the course. I'll do that. I didn't do that this week, but I did read through some of these holes. So just kind of looking through a few of these holes, what we see is that we got some tree-lined fairways, a heck of a lot tighter than last week where they were about a mile wide fairways. So for me, strokes gained tee to green takes a little bit of precedent this week. And something else is that if you get looking at some of these holes, as you see is the rough just off the fairways, not going to be too tricky. So one thing I am going to be looking at this week along with my strokes gained off the tee is good drive percentage. And what that good drive percentage is, it's the total of fairways hit by a player plus the amount of greens and regulations he hits when he misses the fairway. So I think this week, with 50, the average is about 50% of fairways that are hit by players in the field of this tournament. So there's not going to be a whole bunch of fairways hit, but the thing that stands out is there's still an average of over 70% greens and regulation hit. So that's where that good drive percentage comes in. And to kind of find some of those stats, I use the Future of Fantasies Golfinac. And what he has here is a list of all the tournaments every year. So you go down, you find the Sony Open, you click on that. And when it opens, a couple things that I'm looking for here. He's kind of got some course information. So he's got that, average size of greens, stuff like that, average field rating, that kind of stuff. We've got, there's the 51% field average for fairways hit, 66% greens in regulation. I had mentioned over 70%. That was just from last year's stats. So he's got some tournament angles, so you can look at guys that are good on coastal courses, par 70s, Bermuda grass, that's the greens here this week, windy rounds. The wind isn't looking to be too bad this week, and we'll get into the weather here in a bit. And see some previous winners. One that I really like here is the player interviews. So kind of goes through a bunch of different players over the last 2-3 years and just some of the questions in the media that they had faced. You can get a lot of useful information out of this, telling you what kind of course it's going to be, how they played, what irons they were hitting, how many drivers they were using off the tee, that kind of information. So that's where I really come up with what stats are key. And then another one I use is the Moosonomics Fantasy National Golf Club. Now this is a subscription-based site. Definitely get in there if you can afford it. It's an excellent site, a ton of information, and they're always adding new stuff all the time. So one thing I look at is the course breakdown every week. So starting at the top, it's showing the average strokes gained per round for the top 10 finishers of that tournament. So you can see strokes gained approach. That's where I kind of got that from this week. Putting, obviously, it's going to be important for guys that finish inside the top 10. The one that I really look at is hole composition. So you can see here that there are 5 holes from par 4s, 400 to 450 yards, and 5 from 450 to 500 yards. I'm looking more at the 400 to 450 range this week when I'm building my models with the Fantasy National Golf Club. Now that is just because there's going to be a lot more scoring. It's going to be a little easier to get birdies on those shorter holes than it is going to be on the longer holes. The longer holes we're looking more at bogey avoidance and just kind of scratch through par on those holes. So then we also got the average shot distribution over here. So it's just kind of showing you the average distance year by year of how, where most of the approach shots are coming from. So as you can see, the highest here is 150 to 175 yards, and then the next highest is 175 to 200, and then close we've got, that 125 to 150 as well as the 200 plus. So it looks like long irons. When you're looking at strokes gained approach, maybe look at the long irons, and as I said, par 4 scoring 400 to 450 yards. There's a lot more data on here, scoring distribution relative to par. Historic cut line is on there. Greens in regulation percentage is a little bit higher than the average tour event, but as you can see here, driving accuracy is way down compared to the average tour event. I believe this is one of the top 5 hardest courses on tour. Scrambling percentage is up a little bit. So there's a lot of information here to go through, but it does help paint a picture of what's going to be important for each individual course on a weekly basis. So be sure to go over and check that out. And then I mentioned last week as well, when looking at GPP plays especially, and who's going to be high owned, who isn't going to be high owned, I definitely jump over to FanShare Sports. You can look at their tag counts. The first thing I look at, tags here. So you can look at overall tags. Here's a look at the top 10 right now on Tuesday afternoon. So as you can see, Jordan Spieth at the top, 31 tags, 23 for stars. They also show DraftKings salary and FanDuel salary increase or decrease, sentiment rating, whether the tags on social media, whether they're recommending to start that player or sit that player. Also show official world golf ranking, and then another one that was just added here not too long ago was the 24-hour plus minus in that tag count, so you can kind of see where a player's trending as the week goes on and as we get closer to tee times. Another one that I really like to use, and something I'm going to be adding to my article tomorrow, is a look at each salary tier. So right now we're going to look at the $800 to $9,900 salary range, and this is on DraftKings. You can also break it down by FanDuel as well. So you can see in that salary range who is going to be possibly the most popular. So Siwoo Kim right now. So something I do here, and what I'll be writing about, you'll see in the article tomorrow, is who you can pivot off of in GPPs, who's possibly going to be lower owned. So Siwoo Kim, same price range as Bill Haas. Bill Haas has only got 7 tags compared to Siwoo Kim's 24. So you might be able to get an advantage there in GPPs. And like I said, I will be breaking that down, so check back to my article tomorrow. Probably afternoon, early afternoon. I will have that up with probably 2 or 3 players in each tier that I'm going to be pivoting to in GPPs. So that's kind of a breakdown of how I come up with my stats for my cheat sheet every week. So let's jump in and have a look at some of the players. So the players you see here in blue I wrote about in my article. So you can jump over to dfsr.com, go through my article for a more extensive look at those players. I'm not going to touch on them in this video, but I do want to touch on a few guys that I maybe didn't list in the video, and tell you why I like them. So first up, we got Kevin Kistner. He's ranked 15th overall. He's 21 odds, 27th in official world golf ranking. And just kind of sliding over, something that I really like about him, he's finished top 5 here in the past 2 years. He's got some nice form coming in, and if we go look at that on PGAtour.com player card, you can see he started out the RSM with the top 5, Hero World Challenge, which is a very small field, T12, so that I think there was only 18 players in that field, so nothing special there. T11 at the QBE shootout. Those aren't official golf events, those two, but just seeing that he's shooting some rounds in the 60s there, 61 to start off that QBE shootout was nice to see. Last week I was on him. I used him in my one and done on the Gups Corner Challenge. Didn't completely work out for me as he ended up finishing T17, never shot below around below 70, but finished T17 overall. He was pretty consistent throughout the week. So something else that stands out looking at the Fantasy National Golf Club is he does very well lately putting on the Bermuda greens, so that's something that stood out to me. So just a combination of the course history, his form, and then some of his stats here, like there he is, strokes gained putting overall, which on my sheet, strokes gained putting is just, it's not right now, it's about 85% of that is going to be 2017 stats, and 15% the new season stats. So I definitely like using the Fantasy National just to break down Bermuda-specific putting for that. Something else that sticks out for him is his driving accuracy, and then just sliding over a bit, he sits there nice in par 4 and par 5 scoring, proximity from 200 plus yards, and also 150 to 175. He kind of stands out there as well. So next guy on the list, kind of in the same boat here, he's ranks a little bit higher. My overall weighting is Zach Johnson. He's finished top 10 here at Walleye 3 of the last 4 years. He's also got some nice form coming in. Jump over here to the PGA Tour player card. To start the year, he's been very consistent, T13, T23, T8, and then at the QBE shootout again he finished T8 as well. So he kind of stands out there with form and course history, and then just kind of looking at the stats. He doesn't, from the strokes gained perspective, you know, he's in that top 50 in every one, so you kind of see the green there across the board. It isn't kind of the top, and I think a lot of people may fade him just because he doesn't really stand out from a stats perspective. But like I said, course history, form, par 4 scoring, he's 12th. Overall scoring average, he's 6th. So he kind of stands out there as well in that $9,500 range, which seems a little bit high for him. And again, maybe that will contribute a little bit to his ownership as well. Going down a little bit, a guy I think makes a great GPP pivot in this $8,000 range. I talked about Ches Reavie. I believe Siwoo Kim's going to be up there. Daniel Berger for sure is going to be talked about. He's great on Bermuda. He ranks number 9 in my model. But Jamie Lovemark, so he's down a little bit in my overall model, and that mainly has to do with his current form, which has been pretty horrible lately. Jumping over to his player card, you can see that he started out with a T43, T32. He did pick up a top 5 at the CJ Cup, but he's coming in on back-to-back missed cuts, so I'm thinking probably less than 5% owned this week. What stands out is that he has finished top 10 here in back-to-back years, T4 last year, T7 in 2016. And then the other thing that I always look at Jamie Lovemark for is par 70s, as he ranks right up there in par 4 scoring. He's 11th on my sheet in par 4 scoring. He's got some distance to him, so you might be able to utilize that on a few holes. So he's kind of a boom or bust. I wouldn't trust him at all in cash games, even for like a one-and-done pick. But for a GPP pivot, I think at that low ownership, I think he makes a, you know, being that he's going to be less than 5% owned, if you're making 20 lineups, you'd only need him in a couple lineups to, you know, to have more exposure than the field. So I think he's excellent there. Another one, 6th in my overall model this week, is Gary Woodland. I think he may be fairly popular, but what stands out the most to me before I get into course history and current form is that right now on the odds, this is on Bet365, he's 28 to 1 odds, and if you look above him, all the guys priced above him, he's 7,800 this week, 10,200 on FanDuel, so FanDuel's quite a bit higher on him. So the difference, and you can see this over here, if you slide over and have a look at the DraftKings FanDuel odds differential, that he is a plus 16 this week. He's 6th in odds, but he is 22nd in DraftKings salary. So that is a little bit of value there. So just kind of looking at it, no one has better odds than him, going all the way up to Xander Schauffele at 8,600, and then no one else again until Cameron Smith up in the 9,000 range. So at his $7,800 price tag, I think he makes a lot of sense. The only issue with Woodland so far, if you slide over and have a look at his stats, is that he ranks down in 43rd when it comes to birdie or better percentage. And scrambling, he's not the greatest scrambler. I'm not really looking at scrambling too much this week. So, but looking at his proximity, everything outside, all the way from 200 plus, all the way over. So he shows that he's only 76 in overall proximity. I have to look a little bit deeper into that, but looking at his yardage specific proximities, he's top 30 in all of them. So that stands out. And then, of course, we look at course history. He's finished 6th, 13th, and 3rd in the last 3 years here. So definitely stands out for me there. And then a couple guys right at the bottom. I talked about Austin Cook. I think he's a little bit underpriced at 7,600. Talked about him in the article. Digging down even deeper, I also mentioned Andrew Landry as a GPP play this week. Ryan Armour, 33rd in my model. It's his first time here at Hawaii. He's coming in off a... He finished 20th last week. He won. We're going to just have a look at his player card. Started out with a missed cut at the Safeway Open, but he had 4 rounds under 70 at the Sanderson Farms. Picked up his first win there. T20, T55, T37, and again he finished 20th last week. So I don't think he's got the winning upside in this field, but at a price at 6,900, so under 7,000, I think he really helps in getting, say, a Spieth, Thomas, Leishman, Kistner, you know, one of those guys, and someone maybe in the 9K range, a little bit of a stars and scrubs lineup. And then looking at his stats, he kind of fits the model when it comes to stats as well. Not so great off the tee, but that has to do because he just doesn't have a lot of distance. As you see, he's number 1 in driving accuracy on my sheet, number 2 in good drive percentage, and he's 22nd in strokes gained approach, 3rd overall in proximity. Not the greatest, you know, with the long irons, but you know, that's going to come into play because he doesn't have a lot of distance. But I think he can definitely scrape through. I might even consider him in my cash game lineups this week, just because of his consistency coming into this tournament, avoiding bogeys. I don't think he scores enough to get the win, maybe even a top 10, but top 20 is definitely in play, which is pretty much all you need. You know, looking at DraftKings points as well, but not really looking at him on FanDuel at 8,100. He's a little bit overpriced there. But at 90 to 1, he's got the best odds of all the guys in this range for sure, all the way up to Chris Kirk at 55 to 1 in the 7,000 range. So 6,900 is a great price for Armour. And then finally, looking at Canadian Ben Silverman, number 35 in my model. He's 140 to 1, which is pretty good compared to a lot of guys in this range. He's got limited stats on the sheet, so as you can see, slide over and look at the ranks here. He ranks way up there in a lot of these stats this week. Strokes gained putting, strokes gained approach. He's down in strokes gained off the tee. But he is 34th in good drive percentage. 12th in proximity stands out, especially from, you know, 125 all the way up to 200 yards. 80th, so he's about field average when it comes proximity with his long irons. And again, this is limited sample sizes, as you can see so far this year. He's played 5-6 times. He's missed 1 cut. He does have 2 top 10s, so he has shown some upside. So I think he does have that upside of a top 10 this week. But again, kind of looking more like that top 20 range, kind of like Armour, same kind of thing. Again, he's coming off of 4 rounds at the RSM Classic in mid-November. There, he's coming off four straight rounds under 70, which is nice to see. And 12 of his last 9 of his last 13 rounds there have been under 70 as well. So definitely liking that, seeing that he's having a good start to his season. 11th in birdie or better percentage, 3rd in bogey avoidance. So definitely at 6,800, he's another guy. I might even in some of my lineups for stars and scrubs take him and put him together with Armour to get 2 guys up here in that high range. So that pretty much covers it for this week. Again, just some notes on the bottom tabs here. You can look at the course setup. I've got here on the course tab, we've got the last 5 years results with player scores, so you can look at that there if you're comparing players. And then also I've got the last 5 years tournament scoring stats here as well, so you can have a look at that. And then that's my DraftKings salary loading one. So that's pretty much it. Again, if you have any questions, you can hit me up, Daily Fantasy Sports Rankings. You can go into the comment section of this YouTube video. You can go into the chat room, hit me up with any questions there. I'm going to be there pretty much for the next 2 days leading up to lineup lock, as well as Thursday. We got a little bit later lineup lock because it's in Hawaii, so I'll be there Thursday morning as well. Thanks for watching the video. Be sure to like the video, sign up, subscribe to my channel. A lot more videos coming. Start of a brand new season. And again, let's see some green screens, and good luck this week, everyone.